The war, for all intents and purposes, is the main storyline. That great conflict of the 25th century, the battle between the 365th Infantry, and of course the technological madness of the artificially controlled ecosystem in Haven, the last city known to wolfkind. The war originally started as my salute to the work of Jerry Anderson. And I specifically highlight Jerry Anderson here, creator of such shows as Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, Terrahawks, Space 1999, and so on. And I specifically highlight Anderson because the goal was to have basically a Machine of the Week or a Villain of the Week plotline that comes in, messes with the infantry, and they have to figure out, what's the connection to Aces, or if they know it's a connection to Aces, how to defeat the obstacle of the story. It was actually prepped to become a very formulaic project until something happened. Near the end of the first year, I penned a story called Children of the Neon Goddess, which took everything in a thoroughly unhinged direction. Children of the Neon Goddess was a story that focused on General Knox still reeling from visions of his time in Haven, strange, tortured dreams, and discovering that fellow refugee, Lieutenant Gibson Blanc, still just your average soldier, suffering from them as well. And what follows, aided by a couple of soldiers, is this surreal spirit journey into the desert where the two wind up confronting various parts of their history and soon discover the connection with Aces herself. This was kind of the changing point of this series, because this was the moment I realized the war, while still focused on this central conflict, had the potential to go places. And go places it did. The next year would see stories of everything from conspiracies to murder mysteries to classic rock'em sock'em action like I'd originally intended. It was during this second year that we discovered the Black Country, a third faction in the fight for freedom in the 25th century, one that seemed antagonistic to both Aces and the Force, trying to lay claim to everything for themselves. A three-front war can't last forever, however, and that soon sees General Knox sending agents out into the eastern deserts to see if they can find where the Black Country base might reside, based on clues given at the tail end of the last story, Day of the Dragonfly. What then followed was a parallel serial narrative structure, whereby we have the action on the home front with the Force, Knox, and all the rest, and out into the eastern deserts, the adventures of Captain Grim Herrera and civilian adventurer Jack Wellman as they hunt for the base. What began as a simple salute to the kind of classic action and Silver Age comic adventures I'd been intending to write from the outset got a little out of hand, but in the best possible way it could, because this gave me a range of genres to play with, from the horror of Children of the Neon Goddess to the murder mystery of Caught in the Crosshairs, with perhaps still one of my most favorite stories of the entire series, Phantom Forces. It's Moby Dick with a land whale of a tank. And not just any tank. Specifically chosen for the task was a oversized, in doubled dimensions, a T-28 Super Heavy tank. This thing is huge. And I said, supersize me. What follows is a hunt for the Leviathan Spectre helmed by Gibson, his lover Evelyn Teddy Blanc, and Gibson's superior Commander Mad Dog Douglas as they pile into Teddy's AMC Rebel machine and hunt for the ghost in question while the Force repairs their base. One of the interesting parts about writing the war is the simple fact that I have grown to consider this an ensemble piece. Early on, the leader was Gibson. Days after his escape from Haven, Gibson comes across a hound on his deathbed who offers him everything he has, even his name. His time on the Force would shape him into a skilled marksman, a serious rider to be reckoned with in the field, and through the mentorship of General Knox, would find a surrogate father for a hound whose family had been disappeared in one of the many pogroms run by the ACES program. General Adam Knox, and I say this with no hesitation, is probably one of my best characters I've ever written. Knox's story is that of the true believer disillusioned beyond repair. A hound who had everything taken away from him at every step of the way. From losing a partner he used to patrol the beat with, to personal injury, to complete faith in the system, and lastly, the only woman he ever loved. This is a general with nothing left to lose, but at the same time, one who has found compassion for those in the desert, something he wouldn't even have thought of back in his days as a mere police officer in District 222 in Haven. The rest of the cast are, as I like to describe, hounds you can have a beer with. From playful tomboy Evelyn Teddy Blanc to the king of cool that is Captain Herrera, the force is populated with a capable crew of wolves ready to take on whatever gets thrown at them. However bizarre, insane, or insidious that threat may be. While the war is primarily meant as action entertainment, I do think the one thing that I always take pride in about this series on a creative level is the fact that I've created a unit like the 365th that is always aimed outward. This is a group that is not just fighting for the freedom of the desert from the tyranny of the city itself, as well as the freedom of the city's citizens from their own device, but also a series of stories about a well-oiled machine whose backbone are hounds who believe in both their cause, in each other, and in bettering the world around them. If you dig bizarre machines, white-knuckled action, and this cast of fine cowboy hounds of the 25th century, you'll find plenty to love with 365 Infantry. As always, may God bless you and this force.